This is Dr. Kirby, fifth grade teacher at Campus International, and I'm here with you all today. We're going to do a lesson on poetry for raising up your voice. This is going to be a lesson in using figurative language to add impact and interest when writing a poem about an issue that's really near and dear to you. So in today's lesson, we are going to learn about and understand what woke means. We're going to read 3 poems from a collection of poetry written by Mahogany L. Brown with Elizabeth Acevedo and Olivia Gatwood. We're going to review figurative language, write our own poem expressing a connection to an issue of justice that we feel strongly about. Okay, so let's get started. So, woke, writing for justice. What does it mean to be woke? In the simplest sense, it means to be aware. It means to see your surroundings and challenge how we strengthen our relations with the government, the community, and nature. To be woke is to fight for your civil rights and to fight for the rights of your neighbors. That's a quote by Mahogany L. Brown, one of the authors in the book that we're going to look at today. So let's look at the first poem from our book. This one's called Say the Names by Elizabeth Acevedo. Say the names of leaders who came before and made the world better. Say their names so that uttering letters might lend you courage. Say the name Malcolm X, Cesar Chavez, Lili U. Kalani. Say the name I.W. Wells, Sonia Satmire, Mama Tingo. Say the name Malala Yousafzai, Frida Kahlo, Colin Kaepernick. Say the name Frederick Douglass, Sojourner Truth, Tarna Burke. Say the name Harvey Milk, Janet Mock, Audre Lorde. Say the names of these leaders who fought with words that landed like right hooks. These leaders who took a stand so they could assert the dignity of fair pay, so girls would be treated equally, so their homes would be respected, so they could protect the right to protest, so they could promote racial injustice and the right to love who you love, be who you are. And no, it doesn't matter your age or where you come from. If you see someone hurt or down, if you feel like your community is being cheated or wronged, instead of stepping over someone fallen or thinking this is just the way it has to be, use whatever power you have to help lift them up, to lift them out, to lift yourself up, to lift yourself out. Because freedom isn't freedom unless it's freedom for us all. So say the names of your heroes, and then say your name too. Be inspired by the freedom fighters who have come before, and the justice seeker inside of you. Now, as much as I love this poem and saying the names of these important people, I also love that I found a couple pieces of figurative language in there. Did you? My favorite one that I heard was up at the top on the second column. It says, say the names of these leaders who fought with words that landed like right hooks. Well, their words didn't actually punch somebody in the face physically, but their words were so powerful, it felt like they punched somebody in the face. Right? They hit hard. They hit us hard, like a right hook. All right, let's read the second example. This poem's called What's in My Toolbox by Olivia Gatwood. We can't choose the way we're born. Some of us are born with 2 parents, some one, some none. Some of us are born with legs that we can walk with. Some of us need a little help. Some of us get to eat when we are hungry. Some of us still haven't. When a person has privilege, It is a toolbox they were born with, hammers and nails that make it easier for them to walk through the world, because the world, in all of its beauty and excitement and variety, can still be a very hard place in which to live. Privilege makes it feel easier for some people. A white person can walk down the street and not worry about being discriminated against, while a person of color cannot. Our friends might have a toolbox filled with gadgets we wish we had, or we might have gizmos we didn't even know others don't have. And even though it's true we don't choose privilege, we still have the toolbox with us all the time. We can choose to keep the tools for ourselves, or we can choose to use it to help people who don't have what we do. We can ask our parents to pick our friends up from practice if they don't have a ride. We can tell our school we need more ramps for kids on wheels. We can invite friends over for dinner and send them off with a full belly. Privilege might make it easier for one person to build the house, but that doesn't mean they shouldn't build it just for themselves. If we have privilege, we must listen. When we understand each other, we can build a house that fits everyone. We can use our tools to build the house together. In this house, the door is always open. Come in. So I just love this poem because there's two great metaphors in it, right? The toolbox is a metaphor for the privilege that some people have, and everybody's got a toolbox in which they can use. The other metaphor in this poem I love, did you catch it? At the bottom, at the end. Yeah, it's the house. So I love that metaphor of the house. So when we use those tools in our toolbox together, we can build a strong, caring, and just community. All right, let's look at the last poem. And again, I love this one too. So just have a look at it, look at the illustration while I'm reading, and see what you think. This one's called Rock the Boat, and it's also by Elizabeth Acevedo. Someone might tell you, don't rock the boat, when they want you to hush. When they are afraid of change, when they are doing something wrong or that makes them ashamed and they don't want anyone to know, there is a feeling you might get when they say that. When you know someone has done or said something unjust, something that might hurt you or another being, that feeling might be a tightening in your chest or a tightening of your fists. And most times you should not thrust out either, but you should follow that feeling and speak up and speak out. Even if it doesn't feel easy, rock the boat. Rock the boat. Practice saying, don't do that to her, or you're hurting me. You're hurting him, or I don't feel good when you. Speaking up might make your hand shake, or your voice small, your heart flutter like a bird taking flight. That feeling, the tightening in your chest, or the tightening of your fists, you may not have to thrust out either. But trust that your body is telling you to speak up and speak out. Because even if it doesn't feel easy, rock the boat. Rock the boat. And sometimes it might seem you are the only one who can see or feel that something is not quite right in how another is being treated or in how you are being treated. And you may want to be quiet so as not to rock the boat. But just know you contain waves. You are an ocean. Your heart is as large as lakes. And when it quakes, you have to rise and let the tide inside you shake every single ship that would attempt to sweep someone beneath. Rock the boat, with love and hope. Rock the boat. Don't you love that poem? Right? That is another poem that is telling you, all of you young people out there, that you have the right to speak up. Right? When you feel like something isn't right, when something's happening in your neighborhood with your friends, in your school, in your community, in our world, you have the right and the responsibility to speak up and speak out. Did you catch the figurative language in that poem too? That really just makes you get that visualization even better. I thought you did. So I saw a beautiful metaphor. You are an ocean. So that metaphor doesn't mean that you are actually an ocean with sharks and jellyfish and coral in it, but you are so big and so immense and have so much power and so many things inside of you. You are an ocean. And then the simile that comes right after it, your heart is as large as lakes. Your heart. It's so big. It's so full. It's so beautiful, like all the lakes around the world. I love that image. Your heart is that big. Did you catch the idiom? They kept saying it over and over again. Even the title of the poem, Rock the Boat. They don't mean get in a boat and rock it. They mean make a difference. Say something, do something that causes a little change. Okay, so those are our 3 poems for today. So we're going to now use our new knowledge of writing poetry for raising up our voices while using figurative language. So does anyone remember what figurative language actually is? Yeah, I thought so. I thought you would remember if you were given a minute. So figurative language is when you use a word or phrase that does not have its usual, everyday, regular meaning. So here's a few examples. So simile, metaphor, hyperbole, alliteration, personification, idiom, onomatopoeia. Okay, those are our main types of figurative language that we use in our grade band. A simile is something that compares two unlike things using like or as. So I wrote this example below, and I used my daughter as an example here to inspire me. The girl's hair was springy like a birthday present ribbon, coiled perfectly and beautifully. After a simile, we have a metaphor. A metaphor compares two unlike things not using like or as. Her river of hair flowed down her back. A hyperbole is an exaggeration that's not meant to be taken seriously. He jumped so high, the stars twinkled as his head brushed their tips. Alliteration is the same consonant, letter, or sound at the beginning of closely connected words. So here's my alliteration I came up with. Joyful jumps for justice juxtaposed against the jarring light jutting through closed windows. Like that. I use that J over and over again with a bunch of my favorite words in the whole world. Joyful, jumps, justice, juxtaposed. That means next to. Against the jarring light jutting, so cutting through closed windows. Personification. This is a fun one. Personification is human-like characteristics given to non-humans, so objects and animals. My example is the mountain cried out for everyone to hear. So I don't mean the mountain is actually like crying and tears are coming down it, right? Because mountains can't do that. But when I say the mountain cried out, I'm giving a human-like characteristic to that mountain. Idiom. Idiom is a group of words with a meaning that's different from their dictionary meaning. So an example we came up with here for you is to blow off steam, right? They don't mean actually get a hot pot filled with some boiling water or cooking stew and blow the steam off. That's not what those words mean, right? To blow off steam means when you are kind of angry or stressed or annoyed at something and you're feeling like you might shout or break something or kind of do something that's destructive, you need a positive outlet to get rid of those kind of cooped up feelings. That's called blowing off steam. Maybe you need to go for a walk, take a run, go play with your dog, listen to some music. So many different ways you can blow off steam to reduce those emotions and be ready to think and make good choices. And we've got onomatopoeia. That one's fun to say, isn't it? Go ahead, say it. Yeah, you got it. It's a little bit of a tongue twister, isn't it? Onomatopoeia, a word that sounds like the object or action it refers to. So I came up with the example of hissing snake, right? Sounds like, when I wrote that, the hissing snake sounds kind of like the hiss that snakes make, right? Let's get started on the task at hand. We're going to practice writing our own. So here's my poem. Standing tall, poised on the curb, my feet squelch in my sneakers as sweat trickles like rain down a window pane on my sunburnt legs. Chants echo around me of voices singing in harmony for peace, for justice. People move like a river, swaying from side to side gently, holding hands, carrying signs. Justice brings peace, peace brings joy, joy brings partnership, partnership brings unity. So that's my poem, and I tried to put some figurative language in there to make it a little bit more visual and vivid for my readers and more interesting to read. So let's look at that. So here's my poem again, and I've color-coded it with my 3 different types of figurative language that I put in it. So let's read it again. Standing tall, poised on the curb, my feet squelch. That's an onomatopoeia. Sounds like it. In my sneakers, as sweat trickles like rain on a window pane down my sunburnt legs. Well, that's a simile. I'm comparing the sweat running down my legs to the way rain runs down the window pane on a gray, dreary day, right, in Cleveland, Ohio. Chants echo around me of voices singing in harmony for peace, for justice. People move like a river. So I've compared the way people move to a river, swaying from side to side gently, holding hands, alliteration with those 2 H's, carrying signs. Justice brings peace, peace brings joy, joy brings partnership, partnership brings unity. All of those J's and P's. So now it's your turn. So here's your instructions. You are going to write your own poem. So I want you to write a poem about an issue that has meaning to you. Any issue in the world that's important to you. Could be about social justice. It could be about Black Lives Matter. It could be about sustainable environmental issues. It could be about homelessness, any kind of issue that really is close to you that you feel passionate about. You're going to write a poem. You're going to use at least 3 forms of figurative language. I want you to create an illustration to go with it. Make it colorful if you can. Please take a photo of your poem and illustration and email it to me so I can have a look at it.
Hello everyone, my name is Jason Levy and I'm the music teacher from Campus International School. Today we're going to be going on a trip to Kingston, Jamaica, where we're going to learn a song by one of Jamaica's most famous musicians of all time, Bob Marley. So make sure you pack your sunblock and your sunglasses because it's going to be a hot one today. Bob Marley was born in 1945, 75 years ago. He helped introduce reggae music to the world and remains one of the genre's most beloved artists to this day. Bob was such a gifted songwriter. His music showcased themes of social justice, human rights, peace, love, and unity. Bob also loved nature and would often use it as a metaphor in many of his songs. So everyone, today we're going to be learning a song by Bob Marley called Three Little Birds. And I'm going to sing it the first time through, just so you get a feel for what it sounds like, and then we're going to all learn it together. So here I go. Don't worry about a thing, 'cause every little thing's gonna be alright. Sing and don't worry about a thing, 'cause every little thing's gonna be alright. Rise up this morning, smiled with the rising sun. Three little birds pitched by my doorstep, singing sweet songs of melodies pure and true, saying, this is my message to you. So we're going to go through this song in the different sections, and I'm going to sing the first line, and then you're going to echo after me. So it goes like this. I'll sing it first, you sing after me. Don't worry about a thing, your turn, go. Don't worry about a thing. Excellent job. Now the next part goes like this. I'll sing it first, you echo after me. 'Cause every little thing is gonna be alright. Your turn, go. 'Cause every little thing is gonna be alright. Very good. So when we do those two parts together, it'll sound like this. And you can try singing it with me. Don't worry about a thing, 'cause every little thing is gonna be alright. Very good. Now the next part is exactly the same. We just throw a little word singing right before we say don't worry. So it goes, sing and don't worry. Yeah, just like that. Sing and don't worry. So here we go. Let's try that one. One, here we go. Sing and don't worry about a thing, 'cause every little thing is gonna be alright. Very, very good. All right, so that's the first section. So let's try that whole first section together. So don't worry about a thing, because every little thing is going to be all right. Sing and don't worry about a thing, because every little thing is going to be all right. Let's try it together. One, here we go now. Don't worry about a thing, 'cause every little thing is gonna be all right. Sing and don't worry about a thing, 'cause every little thing is gonna be alright. Excellent job. So that's the first section. Now the second section is a little bit different. So I'll sing a line and you echo after me. Rise up this morning, your turn. Rise up this morning. Very good. Smiled with the rising sun, your turn. Smiled with the rising sun, my turn. Three little birds, your turn. Three little birds, my turn. Pitched by my doorstep, your turn. Pitched by my doorstep, good, my turn. Singing sweet songs, your turn. Singing sweet songs, my turn. Of melodies pure and true, your turn. Of melodies pure and true, then my turn, saying, this is my message to you, your turn. Saying, this is my message to you. Very good, so let's try that again. And you can try that with me. And the words will be down at the bottom of the screen so you can follow along. We'll start with that. Rise up this morning, smiled with the rising sun. Here we go. Rise up this morning, smiled with the rising sun. Three little birds pitch by my doorstep, singing sweet songs of melodies pure and true, saying, this is my message to you. That was so good. And you've learned the entire song now. Because the song only has two different parts. It has the don't worry about a thing part, which we'll call the A section. And then it has the rise up this morning part, which we'll call the B section. So we're going to try this one more time. You're going to sing along with me. But instead of singing it here inside, we're going to try it outside. And maybe, who knows, maybe a few little birds will come along and sing with us. So here we go. So we're going to do the song one more time. You're going to sing along with me. We're going to do the A section, then the B section, and then we're going to go back to the A section. And if you get confused, it's no big deal because we'll have the words underneath us. So let's try this. Here we go. Don't worry about a thing, 'cause every little thing is gonna be alright. Singing don't worry about a thing, 'cause every little thing is gonna be alright. Rise up this morning, smiled with the rising sun. Three little birds pitched by my doorstep, singing sweet songs of melodies pure and true, saying, this is my message to you. Don't worry about a thing, 'cause every little thing is gonna be alright. Singing don't worry about a thing, 'cause every little thing is gonna be alright. 'Cause every little thing is gonna be alright. One more time there at the end. 'Cause every little thing is gonna be alright. Excellent job, everybody. And please remember, no matter how crazy this world seems, everything is going to be all right. So again, I'm Jason Levy from Campus International School, and I hope to be able to make some music with you again next time. Thanks. Bye.
So if you haven't heard yet, this is the book that our whole district is doing. We're all reading it together. One district, one book. And hopefully you've gotten a copy already. If you haven't, I'm currently using the Libby app, which is free to anybody who has a library card. You just log in, put in your library card, and you can grab this pretty easily. Again, this is the New York Times best-selling series, Escape from Mr. Lemoncello's Library. Discover the Coolest Library in the World by Chris Grabenstein. And it's, from just judging from the cover, it kind of looks like it has something to do with a game board. I see definitely 3 separate characters. I see a dice. I see a girl back here with a book, girl who looks kind of crazy, this kid in front running away, and some kind of vault with a key and a puzzle piece on it. So I don't know what this is all about. I'll be reading it along with you guys, but let's check it out first. Mr. Lemoncello. So this is an excerpt from the book at the beginning. Mr. Lemoncello, his banana shoes burp squeaking, stepped out of a room filled with dozens of black and white television monitors, the kind security guards watch at their workstations. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us on this grand and auspicious day. Today I am pleased to announce the most marvelously stupendous game ever created, Escape from Mr. Lemoncello's Library. The entire library will be the game board. Your children will be the game pieces. The winner will become famous all over the world. So that gives us a little bit more explanation about what exactly this game board thing seems like. A contest inside of a library? Interesting. Alright, Chapter 1. This is how Kyle Keeley got grounded for a week. First, he took a shortcut through his mother's favorite rosebush. Yes, the thorns hurt, but having crashed through the brambles and trampled a few petunias, he had a 5-second jump on his oldest brother, Mike. Both Kyle and his big brother knew exactly where to find what they needed to win the game, inside the house. Kyle had already found the pine cone to complete his outdoors round, and he was pretty sure Mike had snagged his yellow flower. Hey, it was June. Dandelions were everywhere. "Give it up, Kyle," shouted Mike as the brothers dashed up the driveway. "You don't stand a chance." Mike zoomed past Kyle and headed for the front door, wiping out Kyle's temporary lead. Of course he did. 17-year-old Mike Keeley was a total jock, a high school superstar. Football, basketball, baseball, if it had a ball, Mike Keeley was good at it. Kyle, who was 12, wasn't the star of anything. Kyle's older brother Curtis, who was 15, was still trapped over in the neighbor's yard dealing with their dog. Curtis was the smartest Keeley, but for his outdoors round, he had pulled the always unfortunate "your neighbor's dog's toy" card. Any dog card was basically the same as lose a turn. As for why the three Keeley brothers were running around their neighborhood on a Sunday afternoon like crazed lunatics, grabbing all sorts of wacky stuff, well, it was their mother's fault. She was the one who had suggested, "If you boys are bored, play a board game." So, Kyle had gone down into the basement and dug up one of his all-time favorites, Mr. Lemoncello's indoor-outdoor scavenger hut. It had been a huge hit for Mr. Lemoncello, the master game maker. Ooh, we learned some more information about Mr. Lemoncello. Kyle and his brothers had played it so much when they were younger, Mrs. Keeley wrote to Mr. Lemoncello's company for a refresher pack of clue cards. The new cards listed all sorts of different bizarro stuff you needed to find, like an adult's droopy underpants, one dirty dish, and a rotten banana peel. At the end of the game, the losers had to put everything back exactly where the items had been found. It was an official rule printed inside the top of the box and made winning the game that much more important. Can you imagine having to put droopy underpants that somebody grabbed back where they went? Gross. While Curtis was stranded next door trying to talk the neighbor's Doberman, Twinkie, out of his favorite tug toy, Kyle and Mike were both searching for the same 2 items, because for the final round, all the players were given the same riddle card. That day's riddle, even though it was a card Kyle had never seen before, had been extra easy. Find 2 coins from 1982 that add up to 30 cents, and one of them cannot be a nickel. Duh. The answer was a quarter and a nickel, because the riddle said only one of them couldn't be a nickel. So to win, Kyle had to find a 1982 quarter and a 1982 nickel. Also easy. Their dad had kept an apple cider jug filled with loose change down in the basement workshop. That's why Kyle and Mike were racing to get there first. Mike bolted through the front door. Kyle grinned. He loved playing games against his big brothers. As the youngest, it was just about the only chance he ever got to beat them fair and square. Board games leveled the playing field. You needed a good roll of the dice, a lucky draw of the cards, and some smarts. But if things went your way and you gave it your all, anyone could win. Especially today, since Mike had blown his lead by choosing the standard route down to the basement. He'd go through the front door, tear to the back of the house, bound down the steps, and then run to their dad's workshop. Kyle, on the other hand, would take a shortcut. He hopped over a couple of boxy shrubs and kicked open the low-to-the-ground casement window. He heard something crackle when his tennis shoe hit the window pane, but he couldn't worry about it. He had to beat his big brother. He crawled through the narrow opening, dropped to the floor, and scrabbled over to the workbench, where he found the jug, dumped out the coins, and started sifting through the sea of pennies, nickels, dimes, and quarters. Score. Kyle quickly uncovered a 1982 nickel. He tucked it into his shirt pocket and sent pennies, nickels, and dimes skidding across the floor as he concentrated on quarters. 2010, 2003, 1986. Come on, he muttered. The workshop door swung open. What the? Mike was surprised to see that Kyle had beaten him to the coin jar. Mike fell to his knees and started searching for his own coins, just as Kyle shouted, "Got it!" and plucked a 1982 quarter out of the pile. "What about the nickel?" demanded Mike. Kyle pulled it out of his shirt pocket. "You went through the window?" said a voice from outside. It was Curtis, kneeling in the flower beds. "Yeah," said Kyle. "I was going to do that. The shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line." "That sounds like a smart Curtis right there." "I can't believe you won," moaned Mike, who wasn't used to losing anything. "Well," said Kyle, standing up and strutting a little, "believe it, brother, because now you 2 losers have to put all the junk back." "I am not taking this back to Twinkie," said Curtis. He held up a very slimy, knotted rope. Ew, that must be the dog's chew toy. "Oh, yes you are," said Kyle, "because you lost." "Oh, sure, you thought about using the window." Kyle," mumbled Curtis, "you might want to shut up." What? Come on, Curtis, don't be such a sore loser. Just because I was the one who took the shortcut and kicked open the window and... You did this, Kyle? A new face appeared in the window. Their dad's. Heh, chuckled Mike behind Kyle. You broke the glass? Their father sounded ticked off. Well, guess who's going to pay to have this window replaced? That's why Kyle Keeley had 50 cents deducted from his allowance for the rest of the year, and got grounded for a week. Alright, before we head on to the next part, let's go ahead and write down a little bit about each character as we go. So that way we don't forget as we read this over so many weeks. There's a lot of chapters in this book. That way we don't forget who's who in the story. So far we have Mike, who we've met. I'm just going to put Cave, since we know their last name's Keeley. We have Mike, we have Curtis, and we have Kyle. And let's put down a little bit about what we know about them so far. So we know that Mike is the oldest, and he's a total jock, or really, really good at sports, and he's 17. So let's fill that out for Mike. So Mike is 17, and he's a jock. Good at sports. And let's check Curtis. Oh, he's the smart one. The smartest Keeley is what he said. And it said he was 15, so he's the middle brother. And what do we have for Kyle? Oh, Kyle's the youngest. And he's good at board games. And was he 12? I feel like he was 12. Yes, Kyle, who was 12, wasn't the star of anything. Alright, we met the dad, but he didn't really do anything in this chapter, so we'll leave his block open for now. Alright, let's go check out chapter 2. Alright, here we are, chapter 2. Halfway across town, Dr. Yanina Zinchenko, the world-famous librarian, was walking briskly through the cavernous building that was only days away from its gala grand opening. Alexandriaville's new public library had been under construction for 5 years. All work had been done with the utmost secrecy under the tightest possible security. One crew did the exterior renovations on what had once been the small Ohio city's most magnificent building, the Gold Leaf Bank. Other crews, carpenters, masons, electricians, and plumbers, worked on the interior. That means the inside. No single construction crew stayed on the job longer than 6 weeks. No crew knew what any of the other crews had done or would be doing. And when all those crews were finished, several super secret covert crews, highly paid workers who would deny ever having been near the library, Alexandriaville, or the state of Ohio, stealthily applied the final touches. It's interesting where it takes place in our state. Dr. Zinchenko had supervised the construction project for her employer, a very eccentric, some would say loony, billionaire. Only she knew all the marvels and wonders the incredible new library would hold and hide within its walls. Dr. Zinchenko was a tall woman with blazing red hair. She wore an expensive, custom-tailored business suit, jazzy high-heeled shoes, a Bluetooth earpiece, and glasses with thick red frames. This really helps us kind of imagine it. Heels clicking on the marble floor, fingers tapping on the glass of her very advanced tablet computer, Dr. Zinchenko strode past the control center's red door, under an arch, and into the breathtakingly large, circular reading room beneath the library's 3-story tall rotunda. The bank building, which provided the shell for the new library, had been built in 1931. With towering Corinthian columns, an arched entryway, lots of fancy trim, and a mammoth shimmering gold dome, the building looked like it belonged next door to the triumphant memorials in Washington, D.C., not on this small Ohio town's quaint streets. Dr. Zinchenko paused to stare up at the library's most stunning visual effect, the Wonder Dome. 10 wedge-shaped high-definition video screens, as brilliant as those in Times Square, lined the underbelly of the dome like so many orange slices. Each screen could operate independently or as part of a spectacular whole. The Wonder Dome could become the constellations of the night sky, a flight through the clouds that made viewers below sense that the whole building had somehow lifted off the ground. Or, in Dewey Decimal mode, 10 sections depicting vibrant and constantly changing images associated with each category in the library cataloging system. The Dewey Decimal System is a way to find nonfiction books in the library. We'll talk about that more another day. I have the final numbers for the fourth sector of the Wonder Dome in Dewey mode, Dr. Zinchenko said into her Bluetooth earpiece. 364.1092. She carefully over-enunciated each word to make certain the video artist knew what specific numbers should occasionally drift across the fourth wedge amid the swirling social sciences montage featuring a floating judge's gavel, a tumbling teacher's apple, and a gentle snowfall of holiday icons. The numbers, however, should not appear until 11 a.m. Sunday. Is that clear? Yes, Dr. Zinchenko, replied the tinny voice in her ear. Next, Dr. Zinchenko studied the holographic statues projected into black, crepe-lined recesses cut into the massive stone piers that supported the arched windows from which the Wonder Dome rose. Why are Shakespeare and Dickens still here? They're not on the list for opening night. Sorry, replied the library's director of holographic imagery, who was also on the conference call. I'll fix it. It looks like there's holograms. This is crazy. Thank you. Exiting the rotunda, the librarian entered the children's room. It was dim, with only a few work lights glowing, but Dr. Zinchenko had memorized the layout of the miniature tables and was able to march, without bumping her shins, to the story corner for a final check on her recently installed geese. The flock of 6 audio-animatronic goslings, fluffy robots with ping-pongish eyeballs, created for the new library by Imagineers who used to work at Disney World, stood perched atop an angled bookcase in the corner. Mother Goose, in her bonnet and granny glasses, was frozen in the center. This is Librarian 1, said Dr. Zinchenko loud enough for the microphones hidden in the ceiling to pick her up her voice. Initiate storytime sequence. The geese sprang to mechanical life. Nursery rhyme. The geese honked out Ba Ba Black Sheep in 6-part harmony. Treasure Island. The birds yo-ho-hoed their way through 15 men on a dead man's chest. Dr. Zinchenko clapped her hands. The rollicking geese stopped singing and swaying. One more, she said. Squinting, she saw a book sitting on a nearby table. Walter the Farting Dog. That's a real book, by the way. The 6 geese spun around and farted, their tail feathers flipping up in sync with their noisy blasts. Excellent. End story time. The geese slumped back into their sleep mode. Dr. Zinchenko made one more tick on her computer tablet. Her final punch list was growing shorter and shorter, which was a very good thing. The library's grand opening was set for a Friday night. Dr. Z and her army of associates had only a few days left to smooth out any kinks in the library's complex operating system. Suddenly, Dr. Zinchenko heard a low, rumbling growl. Turning around, she was eyeball to eyeball with eyeball to eyeball. Turning around, she was eyeball to icy blue eyeball with a very rare white tiger. Dr. Zinchenko sighed and touched her Bluetooth earpiece. Miss G, this is Dr. Z. What is our white Bengal tiger doing in the children's department? I see. Apparently, there was a slight misunderstanding. We do not want him permanently positioned near the Jungle Book. Check the call number, 599.757. Right. He should be in zoology. Yes, please, right away. Thank you, Miss G. And like a vanishing mirage, the tiger disappeared. So before we head to chapter 3, let's go ahead and fill out what character we met from this chapter, Dr. Yanina Zinchenko, and what we know about her. Dr. Yanina Zinchenko. And we know that where's that description at? We know she's a world-famous librarian. So she's a famous librarian. And we know she has red hair. Anything else that we need to add? Let's see. I'm gonna skim through it. Oh, she's tall. And she wears glasses. This would be a good time. If I had a little bit more space, I would draw her. I always like drawing in my notes. We're gonna have to continue over to this side. So she's tall. She wears glasses. And she seems kind of fancy. She wore a custom tailored suit. That means that somebody made that suit especially for her. So I'm gonna say she's fancy. Alright. Now we can read our final part for today. Chapter 3. Of course, even though he was grounded, Kyle Keeley still had to go to school. "Mike, Curtis, Kyle, time to wake up," his mother called from down in the kitchen. Kyle plopped his feet on the floor, rubbed his eyes, and sleepily looked around his room. The computer handed down from his brother Curtis was sitting on the desk that used to belong to his other brother, Mike. The rug on the floor with its Cincinnati Reds logo had also been Mike's when he was 12 years old. The books lined up in the bookcase had been lined up on Mike's and Curtis's shelves, except for the ones Kyle got each year for a Christmas from his grandmother. He still hadn't read last year's edition. Kyle wasn't big on books, unless they were the instruction manual or hint guide to a video game. He had a Sony PlayStation set up in the family room. It wasn't the high-def Blu-ray PS3. It was the one Santa had brought Mike maybe 4 years earlier. Mike kept the brand new Blu-ray model locked up in his bedroom. But still, clunker that it was, the 4-year-old gaming console in the family room worked. Except this week. Well, it worked, but Kyle's dad had taken away his TV and computer privileges, so unless he just wanted to hear the hard drive hum, there was really no point in firing up the PlayStation until the next Sunday, when his sentence ended. "When you're grounded in this house," his father had said, "you're grounded." If Kyle needed a computer for homework during the last week of school, he could use his mom's, the one in the kitchen. His mom had no games on her computer. Okay, she had Diner Dash, but that didn't really count. Being grounded in the Keeley household meant you couldn't do anything except, as his dad put it, think about what you did that caused you to be grounded. Kyle knew what he had done. He'd broken a window. But hey, I also beat my big brothers. "Good morning, Kyle," his mom said when he hit the kitchen. She was sitting at her computer desk, sipping coffee and tapping keys. "Grab a toaster tart for breakfast." Curtis and Mike were already in the kitchen, chowing down on the last of the good toaster tarts, the frosted cupcake swirls. They'd left Kyle the unfrosted brown sugar cinnamon, the ones that tasted like the box they came in. "New library opens Friday, just in time for summer vacation," Kyle's mom mumbled, reading her computer screen. "Been 12 years since they tore down the old one. Listen to this, boys. Dr. Yanina Zinchenko, the new public library's head librarian, promises that patrons will be surprised by what they find inside." "Really?" said Kyle, who always liked a good surprise. "I wonder what they'll have in there." Books maybe," said Mike. "It's a library, Kyle." "Still," said Curtis, "I can't wait to get my new library card." "Because you're a nerd," said Mike. "I prefer the term geek," said Curtis. "Well, I gotta go," said Kyle, grabbing his backpack. "Don't want to miss the bus." He hurried out the door. What Kyle really didn't want to miss were his friends. A lot of them had Sony PSPs and Nintendo 3DSs, loaded with lots and lots of games. Kyle fist-bumped and knuckle-knocked his way up the bus aisle to his usual seat. Almost everybody wanted to say hey to him, except, of course, Sierra Russell. Like always, Sierra, who was also a 7th grader, was sitting in the back of the bus, her nose buried in a book. Probably one of those about girls who lived in tiny homes on the prairie or something. Ever since her parents divorced and her dad moved out of town, Sierra Russell had been incredibly quiet and spent all of her free time reading. "Nice shirt," said Akemi Hughes as Kyle slid into the seat beside her. "Thanks. It used to be Mike's. Doesn't matter. It's still cool." Akemi's mother was Asian, her dad Irish. She had very long, jet black hair, extremely blue eyes, and a ton of freckles. "What are you playing?" Kyle asked, because Akemi was frantically working the controls on her PSP 3000. "Squirrel Squad," said Akemi. "One of Mr. Lemoncello's best," said Kyle, who had the same game on his PlayStation. "Oh, so it looks like Mr. Lemoncello makes video games and board games." "The one he couldn't play with for a week. You need a hand?" "Nah. Watch out for the beehives." "I know about the beehives, Kyle. I'm just saying." "Yes!" "What?" "I cleared level 6. Finally." Awesome. Kyle did not mention that he was up to level 27. Akemi was his best friend. Friends don't gloat to friends. Gloating is like bragging. "When I shot the squirrels at the falcons," said Akemi, "the pilots parachuted. If a squirrel bit the pilot in the butt, I got a 50-point bonus." Yes, in Mr. Lemoncello's Catapulting Critters game, there were all sorts of wacky jokes. The falcons weren't birds, they were F-16 Falcon fighter jets, and the squirrels, they were nuts. Totally bonkers, with swirly whirlpool eyes. They flew through the air jabbering gibberish. They bit butts. This was one of the main reasons why Kyle thought everything that came out of Mr. Lemoncello's imagination factory, board games, puzzles, video games, was amazingly awesome. For Mr. Lemoncello, a game just wasn't a game if it wasn't just a little goofy around the edges. So, did you pick up the bonus code? Asked Kyle. Huh? In the freeze frame there. Akemi studied the screen. Turn it over. Akemi did. See that number tucked into the corner? Type that in the next time the home screen asks you for your password. Why? What happens? You'll see. Akemi slugged him in the arm. What? Well, don't be surprised if you start flinging flaming squirrels on level 7. Get out. Try it. You'll see. I will. This afternoon. So did you write your extra credit essay? Huh? What essay? The one that's due today about the new public library? Refresh my memory. Akemi sighed. Because the old library was torn down 12 years ago, the 12-12-year-olds who write the best essays on why I'm excited about the new public library will get to go to the library lock-in this Friday night. Huh? The winners will spend the night in the new library before anybody else even gets to see the place. Is this like that movie Night in the Museum? Will the books come alive and chase people around in junk? No, but there'll probably be free movies and food and prizes and games. All of a sudden, Kyle was interested. I'm interested to see how Kyle pulls off getting a whole extra credit essay done before he gets to class, seeing as he's already on his way to school. Alright, well, we'll read chapter 4, but first let's put in our new characters that we've met. Let's add Akemi. She seems like she's going to be pretty important as his best friend. Best friend. They mentioned she's Asian and she has blue eyes. And she seems pretty nice so far. She seems like she likes video games just like Kyle does. So that sounds pretty cool. Alright, Akemi. Let's go ahead and see how Kyle pulls off getting his essay done before class starts. So exactly what kind of games are we talking about? I don't know, said Akemi. Fun book stuff, I guess. And do you think this new library will have equally new computers? Definitely. Wi-Fi? Probably. Kyle nodded slowly. And this all takes place Friday night? Yep. Akemi, I think you've just discovered a way for me to shorten my most recent groundation. Your what? My game-deprived parental punishment. Kyle figured being locked in a library with computers on Friday night would be better than being stuck at home without any gaming gear at all. Can I borrow a pen and a sheet of paper? What, you're gonna write your essay now on the bus? Better late than never. They're due in homeroom, Kyle, first thing. Fine, I'll keep it brief. Akemi shook her head and handed Kyle a notebook and a pen. The bus bounced over a speed bump into the school driveway. He would need to make his essay really, really short. He was hoping the 12 winners would be randomly pulled out of a hat or something, and like the lottery people always said in their TV commercials, you just had to be in it to win it. Meanwhile, in another part of town, Charles Chiltington was sitting in his father's library, working with the college student who'd been hired to help him polish up his extra credit essay. He was dressed in his typical school uniform, khaki slacks, blue blazer, button-down shirt, and tastefully striped tie. He was the only student at Alexandriaville Middle School who dressed that way. What's a big word for library? Charles asked his tutor. Teachers love big words. Book repository. Bigger, please. Athenium. Perfect. It's such a weird word, they'll have to look it up. Charles made the change, saved the file, and sent the document off to the printer. Your dad sure reads a lot, said his ELA tutor, admiring the leather-bound books lining the walls of Mr. Chiltington's home library. Knowledge is power, said Charles. It's one of our fundamental family philosophies. Another was, we eat losers for breakfast. Ooh, Charles Chiltington sounds a little bit crazy. Kyle and Akemi climbed off the bus and headed into school. You know, said Akemi, my dad told me the library people had like a bazillion different architects doing drawings and blueprints that they couldn't share with each other. How come? to keep everything super secret. My dad and his firm did the front door, and that was it. The second they stepped into Mrs. Cameron's classroom for homeroom period, Miguel Fernandez shouted, "Hey Kyle, check it out, bro." He held up a clear plastic binder maybe 2 inches thick. "I totally aced my essay, man." "The library, dear Leo?" "Yeah, I put in pictures and charts, plus a whole section about the ancient library of Alexandria, Egypt, since this is Alexandriaville, Ohio." "Cool," said Kyle. Miguel Fernandez was super enthusiastic about everything. He was also president of the school's Library Aid Society. "Hey Kyle, you know what they say about libraries?" Not really. They have something for every chapter of your life." While Kyle groaned, the second bell rang. "All right, everybody," said Mrs. Dana Cameron, Kyle's homeroom teacher. "Time to turn in your extra credit essays." She started walking up and down the rows of desks. "The judges will be meeting in the faculty lounge this morning to make the preliminary cut." Crap, thought Kyle. There were judges? This was not going to be a bingo ball drawing like the lottery. "Mr. Keeley," the teacher hovered over his desk. "Did you write an essay?" "Yeah, sort of." "I'm sorry, I don't understand. Either you wrote an essay, or you didn't." Kyle half-heartedly handed her his hastily scribbled sheet of paper. And unfortunately, Mrs. Cameron read it out loud. "Balloons. There might be balloons." The classroom erupted with laughter, until Mrs. Cameron did that tilt down her glasses and glare over them thing she did to terrify everybody into total silence. "This is your essay, Kyle?" Yes, ma'am. We were supposed to write why we're excited about the grand opening, and, well, balloons are always my favorite part." "I see," said Mrs. Cameron. "You know, Kyle, your brother Curtis wrote excellent essays when he was in my class." "Yes, Mrs. Cameron," mumbled Kyle. Mrs. Cameron sighed contentedly. "Please give him my regards." "Yes, ma'am." Mrs. Cameron moved on to the next desk. Miguel eagerly handed her his thick booklet. "Very well done, Miguel." "Thank you, Mrs. Cameron." Kyle heard an odd noise out in the parking lot. A puttering, clunking, clanking noise. "Oh my," said Mrs. Cameron. "I wonder if that's him." She hurried to the window and pulled up the blinds. All the kids in the classroom followed her, and then they saw it. Out in the visitor parking lot, a car that looked like a giant red boot on wheels. It had a strip of notched black boot sole for its bumper. Thick shoelaces crisscrossed their way up from the windshield to the top of a 10-foot-tall boot collar. "It looks just like the red boot from that game," said Miguel. "Family Frenzy." Kyle nodded. Family Frenzy was Mr. Lemoncello's first and probably most famous game. The red boot was one of 10 tokens you could pick to move around the board. A tall, gangly man stepped out of the boot car. "It's Mr. Lemoncello," gasped Kyle, his heart racing. "What's he doing here?" "It was just announced," said Mrs. Cameron. "This evening, Mr. Luigi Lemoncello himself will be the final judge." "Of what?" "Your library essays."